Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Grid Live Pre-Race. I'm Ben Schneider. With me, Adam Lemerise, and from the Podium Finish, Kobe Lambeth. Be sure to leave comments and questions in the chat room. We'll display them on the screen and do our best to respond live on air. And as always, thank you to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deshelle, and Robin, for investing in Grid Network. Tonight, we're previewing the Bluegreen Vacation Duel at Daytona, the two qualifying races that will set the field for the 64th running of the Daytona 500. Coverage of the duels gets underway on FS1 in an hour. Now let's get into it. Kobe will start us off with the history of the duel races and the top stories from qualifying last night.
Yes, two races, 60 laps each, 150 miles of racing around Daytona's high banks, 36 charter teams plus two open teams enter tonight's event with a good night of sleep. The others still trying to get into Daytona 500, not so much. This particular qualifying race has been through a lot of changes since the early days of NASCAR, starting off as a 100-mile race, then increasing to 125 and 150 miles. Different names such as the Twin 125s. I remember them as the Gatorade Duels watching NASCAR as a kid growing up, but it's been through several sponsorship changes over the years. Starting with you, Adam, for some of the newer NASCAR fans out there, can you explain how the duels have changed from the time you first started watching?
Sure. When I was watching as a kid living in New Hampshire, they were called the Gatorade Twin 125s, and they took place on a Thursday afternoon. And CBS Sports would air the duels on Saturday, the day before the Daytona 500. And it was like that for a long, long time. Then like you mentioned, Kobe, it transitioned over to the Gatorade duels, and now we see these dual races at night. And to me, I think it's a really good move for NASCAR, since a lot of people work in the daytime and they can come home, relax, and watch the duels in prime time. It's always incredible, to see these duels and to see how the different outcomes. You'll have teams racing their way in. Kyle Larson and Alex Bowman are on the front row for the Daytona 500. So, they don't have to compete in these races, but they are. And it's going to be just incredible. Then we have a comment from Amber saying, hi. Hi, Amber. Welcome to our pre-race show. And another comment from Amber says, it seems gimmicky that they have to race to start the 500. Yeah, Amber. But it's going to be interesting to see who races their way into the Great American Race during these blue-green vacation duels at Daytona tonight.
And yesterday on Grid Tonight, we asked if Kyle Larson would become the final current Hendrick Motorsports driver to win the pole, since his three teammates have led the field to green in the Great American Race. To no one's surprise, Hendrick dominated single car qualifying in a league of their own, with Larson taking pole and Alex Bowman start on the front row for the fifth consecutive year. William Byron qualified third, Chase Elliott fifth. Eric Almirola broke up in HMS 1, 2, 3, 4 by putting the number 10 Ford Mustang fourth fastest. Focus on the pole setter Larson. If you look at all the different types of tracks NASCAR races on, super speedways are definitely his weakest link with up and down luck. Starting with you, Ben, given Larson's limited success on tracks like Daytona and Talladega, should winning the pole for the Daytona 500 serve as a confidence booster?
I look at what Hendrick has done in qualifying the last several years at Daytona and on restrictor plate tracks or super speedways, whatever they're using now, whatever they're called now. But Daytona 500 qualifying in particular, it's no surprise that they performed as strong as they did. I have to give major props to Eric Almirola as well for breaking up that 1, 2, 3, 4 sweep there. But for somebody like Larson, like you mentioned, Kobe, the only member of Hendrick Motorsports who hasn't done this yet, I think it's absolutely a huge confidence booster. And he went from the highest of highs last season, winning the championship, and couldn't have started this year better, winning the pole for the Daytona 500. So he knows his starting spot is locked in, as does Alex Bowman for the 5th consecutive year. That's a pretty incredible streak to continue to maintain. I see we have a comment from Josh here. What time is the race? I can't tell you the exact start time off the top of my head, but I know it is directly after our show here on FS1. So switch over as soon as we're finished here and tune in to FS1. You'll be able to see the race there. Getting back to Kyle Larson, absolutely a huge confidence booster for him going into this season. Of course, the nature of super speedway racing, you never know what's going to happen, particularly this year with a brand new car. There's plenty of time for things to change when it comes time for the race. But I think certainly in terms of confidence, this is going to give Larson a boost heading into the rest of this weekend.
If you watched GRIDnet last night, I called it. I said Kyle Larson would win the pole for the Daytona 500, and I was right. I think this gives him a good confidence booster. What Ben said about Eric Almirola. It's his last full-time year in the Cup Series before he retires. So pretty cool for him, to have a top 10 starting spot. But I think, we've seen Hendrick Motorsports, always start off strong at the Daytona 500. And when it comes to the dual races tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a Hendrick sweep. You have 300 cars, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, William Byron in the first duel. In the second duel, Alex Bowman is all by himself. You saw what those Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolet did last night. Could it be a prediction of what we see on Sunday in the Great American Race? Could be. Well, we'll have to see how everything develops after the duels at Daytona.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how all the things develop after the duel in Daytona. And looking at these super speedways, I do think it's going to be a confidence booster for Kyle Larson, but it really doesn't matter where you start. And these races at Daytona, Talladega, you can get caught up in a wreck at the front or the back. Yes, Hendrick Motorsports always does an excellent job in qualifying at these super speedway tracks, but in the large grand scheme of things, qualifying doesn't really matter because anything can happen during this race. You'll be in the front, the middle, and the back. So Kyle Larson, no matter where he is on the racetrack, he stands a chance of getting caught up in a wreck. But considering all the things he accomplished last season, stuff he had never done before yet in NASCAR, I think there could be a good chance that he could end his woeful streak on these super speedways and potentially get his first Daytona 500. And we do have some very active chat. Zachary Wall says that your favorite memory for the duel was in 2016 when Dale Earnhardt Jr. passed Denny Hamlin in the closing laps to win. And then Amber says coverage on FS1 of the duels begins in one hour time. Josh Place says, woohoo, gonna be a long night, especially for all our people living over in Europe. And then here's a question right here from Zachary Wall saying, do you think this year Hendrick will win the Daytona 500? If so, which one will win? Adam, Ben, you want to take a shot at that one?
Sure, I'll go first. That's a hard question since all four drivers have been strong. But, I'm going to go say Chase Elliott. You take a look at everything that has happened with the state of Georgia lately. So maybe keep the good times rolling in the Peach State with Chase Elliott capturing the Harley J. Earl Trophy and winning the Daytona 500.
Man, I barely have my picks tonight for the dual races ready, let alone Sunday for the 500. I've got a feeling Hendrick don't win the race. I think it's going to be somebody else. We know how fast they are in qualifying, but the race is a completely different story. Anything can happen, and you can get caught up in something not of your own doing very easily. Having said that, if I had to pick a Hendrick driver, I would probably agree with Adam and go with Chase Elliott. You got to remember, he almost won this race last year. Michael McDowell was slightly ahead at the moment of caution, but Chase Elliott was right up there. So I think he could be in prime position to get his first win. But if it's Hendrick versus the field, obviously we know Hendrick has qualifying speed, but I would probably take the field just because of the odds in terms of numbers there.
I'll agree with you, Ben. I'll agree with you.
Yeah, definitely agree with you, Ben. Yeah, and if I do have to pick, I definitely think Chase Elliott probably has the best chance out of the 4 Hendrick cars. He's been in position to win this race. I believe a couple of times. You mentioned last year as well, then several years ago when he was driving the number 24 car before he switched back to his traditional number 9. It's going to be interesting to see how the Hendrick cars do in the race, and something a lot of people always seem to watch out for is Hendrick cars coming off a turn 4 in the race, because for some reason year after year it seems like those cars get quite loose around those corners. So it's going to be interesting to watch out for stuff like that. And drivers who still are not locked into the Daytona 500 aren't the only ones that are really nervous tonight. All team owners in the NASCAR Cup Series garage have to be feeling some jitters. Since we're at the beginning of the next gen era, the 7th generation Cup car, the teams are facing a part shortage, meaning if someone crashes out of their duel tonight, they'll be in serious trouble because a lot of teams don't even have a backup car prepared. Sometimes we get a duel race that's very calm and nothing major's happen. Then the other duel race, all heck will break loose and you'll see complete chaos. Starting with you, Adam, is it best for everyone in the garage area to take it much easier in the duels this year instead of jockeying around for position?
Yeah, you were mentioning the part shortage, Kobe, and it is a new car, and I think, and to me, I think both dual races will be calm. Since everybody, it's the first time we've seen this car on a super speedway. Even though we saw it at the Clash of the Coliseum, it was a short track, an exhibition race, but we did see people like Justin Haley have a really bad hit into a concrete barrier, but at Daytona they have the safer barrier, so maybe it'll be a little bit better in case someone crashes. But I think, with everything going on with, a lot of teams don't have any backup cars. I think tonight everyone will take it nice and easy to get prepared. We also have another comment from Zachary. He says also Hendrick has won the last 5 races from last season if they win the 500. And I'll flip it over to you guys, Kobe and Ben. How long until you see Hendrick will lose a race? It could happen on Sunday, Zachary. Very, very easily. What do you guys think?
I guess we're going to this question first then, right? So I will, I think I've already made my pick. I don't think Hendrick win the 500. And I don't really have too much to add. So I guess I'll throw it over to Kobe then, and then we can come back to me on the first question about the dual races.
Oh, yes. And to answer your questions, Zachary, I think there's a good chance that Hendrick may not win the Daytona 500. I'm going to wait until the dual races tonight before I decide on my Daytona 500 pick. I've been flipping back and forth trying to figure out who I think is going to win, but I'll feel a lot more confident after tonight dual races. And oh boy, we have quite an active chat room tonight. And more from Zachary and also what drivers will win their first race this year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ben, you want to take a shot at that one?
Wow, that's yeah. I guess Reddick. I see we got some comments in the chat as well. Reddick and Cindric are probably good picks. I know Daniel Suarez looked pretty strong with Trackhouse at times last year, so I think those are definitely good picks in terms of who we might see as first time winners this year. I'll throw it over to Adam.
Yeah, I like Tyler Reddick. I believe he will win a Cup race this year. Daniel Suarez is another good pick. So I'd have to say Daniel Suarez and Tyler Reddick are my picks who we could see win the first career Cup Series race this year.
I just want to say 2 words tonight. All aboard. all aboard the choo-choo train. I guess you could go with that theme there. I am expecting a single file procession tonight, not unlike what we've seen in past years at times, particularly in the Clash and in the dual races at Daytona and Talladega. I think we are going to see very conservative drivers tonight because of what we just mentioned with the parts shortage and everything. And also, we have to consider what's at stake here. 38 of the 40 drivers are in the field already. So there's really only one driver in each duel that is fighting for a position. You know, I guess Villeneuve and Gregson are locked in. They could race into the transfer spot, and then it goes back to the next driver on speed. But they're already in the race too. So I think for the vast majority of these teams, the main goal tonight is just have a clean race. You don't need to worry too much about where you start in the race, because obviously with the draft and everything that happens with Daytona 500, where you start doesn't really matter. If you're in the front, you can be in a wreck. If you're in the back, you can be in a wreck. If you're starting up front, you can win the race. If you're starting in the back, you can win the race. So I think with all that in mind and the risk that you would be taking, knowing that a lot of these teams don't even have backup cars, or they only have one backup car to split among the three cars that they're entering, or whatever the case may be, I think we're going to see a single file procession tonight. Drivers not taking a lot of risks. Maybe until the final lap, you might try to pick up something, but I think a lot of people are going to play it safe. Or maybe they'll prove me wrong and actually try to be aggressive at times, but I would bet against that tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Ben. I think, as you said, all aboard the choo-choo train. I think we're going to see a single-file train against the wall, and all the teams are going to want to take it easy. And it's going to be tough for those open teams who are not locked in to try to race if everyone's trying to race all conservative. But I do think that's probably the best strategy for tonight is to try to make sure your car's in one piece for the Daytona 500. And if you're in a wreck, especially if you're one of the smaller teams, you could be in some real serious trouble trying to get your car ready for the Daytona 500. I have a comment from Amber in the chat room saying that somebody should pick Cody Ware for pick a winner. And these super speedway tracks, Daytona and Talladega, they're notorious for underdogs, where an underdog driver can definitely be in the contention to go to victory lane. I'm sure the internet would explode if Cody Ware goes to victory lane for Rick Ware Racing. Definitely a lot of unpredictability whenever we race at Daytona International Speedway. And with that said, gonna turn it over to Ben for our preview of the first dual race, which gets underway shortly after the 7 o'clock hour.
Yeah, Justin Haley took Spire to victory lane a couple years ago at Daytona, so anything's possible there. So in Duel 1, the three Hendrick Chevys are starting at the front of the field, followed by both Trackhouse entries and Daniel Hemrick, who showed impressive speed in single-car qualifying for the new Cup Series, or new full-time, I should say, Cup Series team, Colleague Racing. Starting 17th after failing to qualify for last year's Daytona 500, Noah Gragson was the fastest open car, so he's in the show on Sunday, regardless of how he does tonight. Two other open cars are in Duel 1, Kaz Grala and JJ Yaley. Grala has to either be the top finishing open car in Duel 1 or have Gragson finish ahead of him, with Grala being the third fastest open car, Gragson and the second fastest open car. We'll talk about that driver in a little bit. Both race their way in. Grala can fall back on speed and get in the show that way. JJ Yaley, on the other hand, must beat Gragson and Grala or he's out. So Kobe and Adam, we kind of saw this last year, a little bit of controversy with Ryan Preece and Ty Dillon in terms of who made the field. A couple of ways for Grala to get in tonight, but he's driving for Floyd Mayweather. How much pressure does that add to Kaz Grala tonight, putting the money team in the big show for the race on Sunday?
Oh my goodness, driving for Floyd Money Mayweather, Kaz Grala is going to have a lot of pressure on him to get that in the show. Anyone who knows anything about Floyd Mayweather, the one thing he hates more than anything else is losing. Floyd Mayweather doesn't like losers, and he will not be pleased if Kaz Grala does not get his number 50 car in the show. But also, you have to be realistic that this is a brand new team in the NASCAR Cup Series, and as a new team, there's always a lot of growing pains. So if Grala doesn't make the show tonight, it's obviously not going to be the end of the world for the money team. With that said, Kaz Grala is certainly a solid super speedway racer, and if anybody can get the job done, put that thing in the Daytona 500, it's definitely him. And I believe that the money team picked the right driver for this event, and think Grala can certainly be successful and get the money team in the 64th running of the Daytona 500.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, Kobe, and I'll let our viewers know At the end, we'll do or pick a winner, and I'll just say this. My pick winner for race 1, Amber, you were mentioning an underdog. Wait till you hear my pick. I'll just say this. It's not a Hendrick Motorsports Chevy Camaro. That's just a little hint. But getting back to this question, yeah, Cosgrove has a lot of pressure on him tonight since he's driving for a well-known professional boxer in Floyd Money Mayweather. And like you said, Kobe, Money does not like to lose. And we have a comment from Amber, says, I predict Reddit crashes and Larson wins. That's all right, Amber. Oh, you like more Cody? You're welcome, Amber. You're welcome. I think Cosgrove has a lot of pressure on him tonight. Driving for Floyd Money Mayweather, and we have another comment from Zachary. He says, all gives a duel number 2. Well, Zachary, you'll just have to wait until the end of the show, to see who Kobe, myself, and Ben, who we all think are going to win these duel races. Cosgrove has a lot of pressure on him tonight, and I believe he will get in to the Daytona 500, and Floyd Money Mayweather will be a happy camper after tonight.
Yeah, certainly a lot of pressure for Cosgrove. He's had several strong runs in super speedways before, so I think his chances are pretty solid. And like we said, he's got a couple of different ways to get in. He could fall back on his speed if Gragson races his way in, since Gregson's already locked into the field on speed himself. So I think it's a lot of pressure driving for a big name like that, especially in your debut race. But we also have to be realistic. I don't think it would be the end of the world if they miss the show, but Floyd Money Mayweather certainly doesn't like to lose. And I think Cosgrove has got a lot of pressure on him to prevent that from happening. And as a follow-up question, Adam, we'll go to you first this time. We've got 300 cars taking positions 1, 2, and 3 in the first duel. Should we expect HMS to control the show at the front and bring the cars home without a scratch?
Well, last night we saw those Hendrick Motorsports Chevy Camaros are like hot rods. They proved, last night that they've got horsepower underneath the hood. So Hendrick Motorsports will be, to me, I think, will be strong in this first duel, since you have 3 of the 4 cars here: William Byron, Kyle Larson, the pole sitter, and Chase Elliott. I think Hendrick Motorsports will be strong, and I think they can't control the race, but it's Daytona. Anything can happen at any given time. Another team to look out for is Trackhouse Racing. Those two Chevy Camaros are really strong as well, but I think Hendrick Motorsports is the team to be in duel race number 1 tonight.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Adam. While anything can happen in these dual races, as we've been saying, I expect it to be a calm show for the most part, but they might prove me wrong and go out there and I'll be complete chaos and we'll end up with multiple torn up next gen cars. But assuming things are going to be calm in those 300 cars, they can control the show. Can have Larson the pole sitter elect the outside, and then his 2 teammates on the inside, can just back off a little bit, let Larson ease down, and those 3 can get on the bottom, 1, 2, Hendrick, 1, 2, 3, and move up to the top of wherever they're gonna run single file, and they can control this entire race. It assumes something doesn't happen. But if I was like Kyle Larson, I just drop to the back of the pack at the tail end of the league drive and make sure nothing too crazy happens, because that's the pole car. You definitely don't want to tear that up, especially after all the hard work that team put on during the off season.
Yeah, well, I think I've kind of answered this for myself based on what I predict is going to happen tonight. But Kobe, like you mentioned, we might see Larson drop to the back. That's the only one that I could see that happening for when we talk about these three Hendrick drivers. I have a feeling that it's going to be a very calm race, and they'll probably just stay up at the front of the field. We know they have the speed to do that, and if we're expecting a conservative race of drivers playing it safe, I don't see much of an opportunity for them to fall back. And we'll go ahead and transition to the second duel with you, Kobe. Or maybe Kobe might be frozen here, so I'm going to take control of the second duel, and hopefully Kobe gets back here. Oh, yeah, Kobe, you're back? All right.
Yeah.
We might have lost him again here. I'll take the start on Duel 2, and if Kobe comes back, we'll be able to. I'll transfer it over to him. But unlike Duel 1, only one Hendrick driver is in the second duel. Alex Bowman. He'll have to deal with Eric Almirola, all four Joe Gibbs Racing Toyotas, Bubba Wallace from 2311 Racing, and Team Penske's Joey Logano, who said he plans to go out there and race for the win instead of using the conservative strategy to ride around logging laps to avoid potential wrecks. However, one of the biggest stories of single-car qualifying was the driver who posted the second fastest time of the open cars, putting a brand new team on the Daytona 500. 1997 F1 World Champion Jacques Villeneuve shocked the world and put Team Hesburg, a European team from the Netherlands partnering with Reaume Brothers Racing, into the Daytona 500. Most people thought Kaz Grala or Greg Biffle would get in on speed. Very few predicted that Villeneuve would find enough speed in his 27 Ford Mustang to put a lap good enough to put to make his Daytona 500 debut and lock him in the show. A world champion at the pinnacle of motorsport in 1997, winning both the IndyCar Championship and the Indianapolis 500 in 1995. Now the Canadian driver can add the Great American Race to his resume after failing to qualify in his first attempt in 2008. While Villeneuve won the IndyCar title, the Indy 500 and F1 Championship in 1995 and 1997, respectively, the other driver locked in on speed, Noah Gragson, wasn't even born yet. Gragson was born in 1998. So, Kobe, we'll start with you since it looks like you're back now. From a global and historical standpoint, how big of a deal is it for Jacques Villeneuve to make the starting grid for the Daytona 500?
Oh, I think it is massive having Jacques Villeneuve in the 64th running of the Daytona 500. Just look at his resume: IndyCar champion, Indianapolis 500 champion, Formula One world champion, and now he's in his 50s and he's coming here to run the Great American Race and try to try to do this towards the what I assume is going to be towards the end of his racing career. Is just spectacular, considering Jacques Villeneuve is a well-known name on the world stage, considering all of his success in all multiple disciplines of racing. And Jacques Villeneuve actually won a race last season in NASCAR Wheeling Euro Series, and it show you that the old man can still get it done behind the wheel of a race car. And for him to put Team Hesselberg into the 64th running of the Great American Race, it was just massive for the motorsports community in general. Thought it was a really big story for that to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it's a huge deal for Jacques Villeneuve to be in the show and not have to worry about that in the dual race tonight. I believe there was a little bit of talk about this on social media last night. He joins Mario Andretti as the only drivers to have won the Formula One World Championship and started the Daytona 500. But Andretti won the Daytona 500 first before he won his World Championship in 1978. I believe Villeneuve is the first driver to have won the F1 World Championship prior to making his debut in the Daytona 500. So a little bit of history made tonight as well. And for a global superstar like Villeneuve, with his championship pedigree in Formula One, it was kind of funny, actually. I think he had the champions patch on his uniform as well. They were joking that he should just write F1 over it, but I think they taped over it to fix the problem that way. But it's huge to have him in the 500. And again, for him, just personally and his team, not to have to worry about that tonight is got to be a major confidence booster for Sunday.
If you watch Grid Tonight last night, I also said Jacques Villeneuve races way would make the Daytona 500. I'm pretty good at predictions. You know, I guess Kyle Larson won the pole and Jacques Villeneuve make the Daytona 500. So overall, I think this is awesome. Seeing this first year team going out and making the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, and seeing a name like Jacques Villeneuve compete in this race, like you guys mentioned, he is a former F1 world champion. He is a former Indianapolis 500 champion, and his late father, Gilles Villeneuve, also competed in Formula One. So pretty cool to have the Villeneuve name in the Great American Race. And we have a comment from Zachary Wall, says also, remember when the Gen 6 car came out? They were a single file almost the whole race. Do you see it happening again for the Gen 7? Yes, I believe we will see single file tonight in both dual races, except because everyone will take it nice and easy since it's the first year. Zachary also says, I say about 6 to 10 cars will crash out altogether. How many you see crashing? I say at least 5 in duel 2. Well, it's going to be interesting. Both dual races have a lot of successful drivers in them. So, and I go to my colleagues with this question: Do you think both dual races will be calm, or will we see one calm race and one crazy race?
Well, I'll answer this question first, Adam. I think we've already really went over this, but I will say I expect two calm races tonight. Don't really expect nothing major to happen, but you look in years past, as I said, you'll have one dual race that's calm, and the other one's usually a lot more chaotic. But I think anything up for grabs tonight. But I think the best chances of seeing something tonight is we're going to see want to see the racing on a more calm side. What do you think, Dan?
Yeah, like you said, I think we've already touched on this quite a bit, but I agree. I'm expecting calm races. I suppose it's possible one could be a little more chaotic than the other, but I think for the most part, drivers are going to take it pretty safe and play it pretty safe. So that's my prediction.
Yeah, play it pretty safe. And in Duel 2, Greg Biffle and Timmy Hill have to beat Villeneuve to race in. Biffle can get on speed, but both Gregson and Villeneuve need to be the top finishing open car in each duel, and the MBM Motorsports car is finished behind, so Biffle stands a better chance of controlling his own destiny by racing in. With Hill being the slowest out of 42 cars in single car qualifying, he must beat Villeneuve and Biffle, or he's out. So the MBM cars have the toughest hill to climb tonight. Adam, do you like Greg Biffle's chances of making the race, or will it be a steep uphill battle?
Well, I think it'll be. I think Greg Biffle will get into the Daytona 500, and actually, Joe just sent us something. We have our second person who bought us coffee. We want to thank Amber Jared, who's known as Amber JJ here in the chat room. She bought us some coffee. So Amber will add you to our we will add you to our list, and we thank you for buying us coffee. And if anyone else wants to, there's a link in the video description below where you can buy your favorite Grid on Air talent some coffee, tea, or any type of drink. So Amber, we thank you. And we haven't seen Greg Biffle compete in the NASCAR Cup Series for a while, and he has a really cool sponsor in his car, Grambling State University. It is Black History Month, and Grambling State University is an HBCU, historically Black college university. If you remember, the football team was coached by the late great Eddie Robinson, and they had a quarterback named Doug Williams who competed with then called the Washington Redskins and won a Super Bowl. So, I believe Greg Biffle will get in to the Daytona 500, and it'll be cool.
Yeah, it would definitely be great to see Greg Biffle return to the Daytona 500 after stepping away from the Cup Series for the last several years or so, and it seemed like they were having some issues last night in qualifying. And saw on Twitter today from several journalists that it seemed like Biffle has all of the problems fixed now. So we'll see if he can try to race his way into the duel tonight, because I wouldn't want to count on having Noah Gregson and Jacques Villeneuve be the top finishing car in Duel 1. In Duel 2, it's probably best that Biffle go out there, control his own destiny, and be the top finishing open car, so he can make the Great American Race once again. And we're almost out of time for today, so that means, Adam, it's time for everyone's favorite game. Pick a winner.
That's right, Kobe. It's time to pick a winner, and Kobe is on top with 2 wins, and we have several others with 1 win, including myself and Ben Schneider. So now we time it that we make our picks for the Blue-Green Vacations Duel at Daytona. I'll start with you, Ben. Who takes on the checkered flag in dual race number 1?
I've been expecting a pretty calm race. I don't think there's going to be too much action. And in that case, I have to go with the guy starting up front. But I do think Kyle Larson may just play it extremely safe and drop to the back. So I know he's starting up there with a couple of his Hendrick teammates. I'm not going to pick Larson. I'm going to pick Chase Elliott.
Okay, now it's my turn. I'm gonna also go with you, Ben. Think Chase Elliott's gonna get it done and Duel 1. Think Larson's really gonna play it safe and just try to get that pole winning car across the line in one piece. Adam, your pick.
Well, I'll also say we have actually Zachary Wall. He just bought us coffee as well. So Zachary, we thank you for that. Now for my pick. It's not going to be a Hendrick Motorsports car winning the first duel. Last night we saw another team perform really well, and that was Trackhouse Racing. So I'm going to someone from Trackhouse Racing. I'm going with the Watermelon Man, Ross Chastain from Florida, overpowering those 3 Hendrick Motorsports Chevrolets and taking the first duel at Daytona. And Zachary says he has Chase Elliott winning the first duel, Bubba Wallace the second duel. Amber says Larson in the first duel, and Jenny Hamlet in the second duel. So thanks, guys, for your picks. We appreciate it. Now it's time to go to duel race number 2. Okay, Ben, you're up first. Who wins?
I'm going to take the same philosophy. I know Bowman has his front row start locked, so I think he might drop to the back, particularly because all of his Hendrick teammates are in the first duel. So I'm going to go with the guy that broke up the Hendrick party yesterday and say Eric Almirola repeats what he did previously and wins the second duel race tonight.
And before I share my pick for Duel 2, want to give a big shout out to Zachary and Amber for being very active in the chat room tonight. Really appreciate you guys getting engaged with the discussion. Also buying us a coffee. We really appreciate you supporting the Grid Network. All of us do on the entire team. And my pick for Duel 2, I think it's going to be a driver from Joe Gibbs Racing, the number 11 FedEx Toyota. Denny Hamlin's going to get it done.
Well, originally I was going to pick Alex Baldwin. But like I said, this February is Black History Month. So why not go with the driver who won his first career Cup win at Talladega last year? And and he drives, and one of his sponsors is one of my favorite places to eat. I'm going Bubba Wallace, the driver of the number 23 McDonald's Toyota for 2311 Racing to take the second duel at Daytona.
Certainly going to be an interesting couple of races tonight. And like we said, we see them play it safe. I think there's a very good chance we will. But they could surprise us, and that could make for some long nights ahead in the Cup Series garage if we've got teams trying to break up backup cars, if they have them even, or trying to make repairs. We'll see what happens tonight. Be sure to subscribe to the Grid Network right here on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, all our social media. Take 5 minutes after the show. Consider joining our Patreon. Invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air. And a special thank you, as always, to our patrons and monthly investors, Colin, Deshelle, Mark, and Robin. Thank you so much. Also, follow the link below to Buy Me a Coffee, our one-time donation option. You can buy a coffee for your favorite on-air talent, and any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, the stock market social media home. The referral code in the link below gives you $5 to invest. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends, make new friends, and use tools to learn how to invest in the stock market. On Sunday, we have a Grid Live doubleheader planned, starting with our Grid Live Daytona 500 pre-race show at 11 a.m. And then 90 minutes after the 64th annual Daytona 500, we will have Grid Live wrap-up as always. For Adam Lemerise and Kobe Lambeth from the Podium Finish, I'm Ben Schneider. Thank you for watching, and enjoy the duels in Daytona.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.